Our school introduced one-to-one iPad devices for our students back in 2013, and when they were introduced as teachers, it was very much a case of being left to our own devices, pardon the pun, to work out how best we could use this piece of technology in the context of our own subjects and in the context of our own individual classroom dynamics. I suppose from my own experience, for the first couple of years, it was very much a case of experimenting with how I was using this device to support my students' learning and also to support and develop my own teaching practice. But with the advent of the new junior cycle being fully implemented and obviously English being the first of those specifications to be rolled out, I started to think about ways in which I could implement and develop a digital platform space that would allow my students not only to gain confidence in their own abilities in English over the course of the 3 years, but also to provide them with a platform to reflect on their own learning, to improve upon it, and ultimately to end up being a much more well-rounded student of English by the end of the 3-year cycle, not just in relation to their writing skills or reading fluency, but also in developing their oracy skills as well as their listening skills as well. Since 2015, Seesaw has been my go-to online learning platform with junior cycle students, and the main reason for this is that it's a platform that very much captures student learning across the different aspects of the English specification over the 3-year period of junior cycle. And as you can see here, there's lots of different ways the students can interact with their work, but it's not just a place that stores work, it's an active digital space where the teacher and the class are providing encouragement, constructive criticism and suggestions for improvement on that work. When students share their work on this platform, they're not just sharing it with me as their English teacher, they're also sharing it with their peers as well. And this develops that classroom culture of peer feedback and individual reflection. Students are developing their technique over the 3 years in giving effective peer feedback. And this in turn encourages individual reflection on the work that's been done and hopefully changes that need to be made on that work as they go through their junior cycle English journey. So how do digital portfolios work and what do they look like as far as the student and teacher is concerned? So if I open up my Seesaw class app on my iPad, here you have my second year junior cycle English group, and if I click on my name up in the top left hand corner, I can see the list of all my different classes and I can jump from class to class, which is very handy. I can also archive any class as well, so instead of deleting a class when they get to the end of 3rd year, I can just put it into my archive folder as well. I can easily access any material that I may have sent to previous groups in previous years. So the interface that you see here for the teacher is not that different from what a student sees. The only difference is that I can see here on the right hand side the list of all my students in that class. The students don't get to see that. So here you have the main class journal here. Students have sent me different assessments over the course of the last few weeks. So for example, a student here has sent me a review of one of the study poems that we covered through 2nd year. So if I just click on that, it'll give you a little insight as to what she has said about Kavanagh's A Christmas Childhood.
Patrick Kavanagh's poem, A Christmas Childhood, is a memory poem. Patrick Kavanagh describes a magical and mysterious time from childhood, a Christmas when he was 6 years old. Christmas is a time when the ordinary becomes extraordinary. In line 1, we are presented with a factual and accurate description. One side of the potato pits was white with frost, and line 2 is powered with emotion.
Okay, so that just gives you a flavour of what the students can do. So what options are there for students and teachers to interact with the work in terms of how they go about sending work? So when you click on the green plus button, there are 3 options coming up for me as a teacher. Students don't have access to assigning activities or sending out class announcements. That's just for the benefit of the teacher. The assigning activity option is quite handy in the sense that I can send out an activity for the class in advance, so I could conceivably create it on a Monday and assign it for 5 days in advance for it to go live on Friday, and I find that that's helped me hugely if I'm away with football or doing other in-school activities at the time. The students still have work to do. But the interface for posting work is exactly the same for students and teachers. So when I click on that, this window comes up. So there's 6 different options here for students. The first option is obviously taking a photo. They can do that within the app itself. The second option is the drawing. So that's where you can annotate work. The third option then is where you can record a video within the app itself. The upload option is very straightforward. You can upload photos and videos from the camera roll, or if you have things stored on your Google Drive or other locations like your iCloud, Dropbox, OneDrive, you can upload things there straight away. It converts it into PDF documents for you, which can be very handy. There's the note option, which allows you to type out comments as normally, but a very handy function here allows you to record up to 5 minutes. And what you can see in these drawing and note options is that when you click on them, it does give you an opportunity to draft things. Okay, so, and it does save the draft, so if you want to come back to a later stage, which students have done when they're compiling their collection of text, for example, it's there for them to pick up from where they left off. So that's a hugely beneficial function, not just for students, but for teachers as well. The 6th option here is just a link, so if I want to send out a link to a YouTube video, for example, or a link to a different website, you can upload the link there through that option. So lots of different ways that students can interact with their work, and lots of different ways that you can complement the coursework that you're covering through the different options that you have here available to you. So when a student sends me a piece of work, in terms of giving feedback to the students, there's a couple of different options available to me. I can click on the little like button straight away just to acknowledge that I've received it okay, but in terms of giving feedback, specific feedback or instant feedback, I can type a comment, or if I'm in need of saving a bit of time, I can record a comment for up to 2 minutes, which gives instant feedback straight away in terms of giving them specific areas to address going forward, or if I want to give a grade on a particular piece of work, if needs be. So 2 different options there available to me for that, which is very helpful. Other little options here as well. You can edit the item for the student if you think they need to make changes. You can share it to another platform, or save it to another platform. You can print off QR codes depending on the task that they're doing. There's also an option here to add it to a specific folder within your class. So I can add this to the first year class novel because it's in relation to that piece of work. So lots of different options for you to interact with particular student posts when they send you work. English teachers have a very special relationship with their students, and I think that's because we all know that we're not just teaching their heads, we're teaching their hearts as well over the course of the time that they're with us in the classroom. So I think developing that relationship and that rapport right from the start when you get a new group is very important in putting down a foundation for what's going to come over the course of the 3 years. So once a student feels a rapport with the teacher, they'll feel a rapport with the passion that you have for your subject. So I think developing the culture that you want from your English class right from the very start is very important, and I would certainly spend a lot of time, particularly in the first term of first year. I would put a big emphasis on getting to know the new group and building that rapport with them, because I think it's very important to build up that interpersonal relationship, because if that interpersonal relationship isn't in place, then a digital relationship is not going to be able to follow on from that. As part of building up that rapport with a new group, I would spend a lot of time in determining their prior knowledge through student profiling. So every student in the class would take a questionnaire or an online survey in relation to what likes or dislikes they have in relation to reading, writing, speaking and listening. I also find out what books they've read in 5th and 6th class, or get a sense of their favourite authors or genres through a Mentimeter survey like the one you see here, for example. And then in relation to those findings, I choose text and assessment tasks then related to that. I also try to emphasise to the class from an early stage that our classroom is going to be built on a culture of classroom talk, that we're going to try and build an active space where opinions are going to be shared and different voices are going to be heard. And I think it's important to put down that foundation right from the start when you get a new group, that this is going to be the norm in our classroom as time goes on. So the assignments that I give to students are a reflection of this culture, and this shows you the further benefit of having a digital portfolio that enables this to take place. One of the very first tasks that I get first year English students to do is to record an introduction of their life story so far. And when I assign writing tasks, I always make sure that there's an oral communication element to it as well. So if they're writing me a story, I'll also get the students to record themselves reading that story to me, so I listen to that as I'm correcting it or giving feedback. So little things like that that I can do on a digital portfolio platform allows me to reflect the classroom talk culture that I want to integrate into tasks that they're covering in relation to their coursework. And then it makes the experience of the CBA1, the oral communication task, less daunting when it comes around, because this is something that they have developed right from the start of first year, and it's not an alien experience to them when the time comes for that assessment moment to take place. So the digital portfolio platform is an invaluable resource to me in providing students with a structure where they can reflect on their own learning, be able to chart improvements in their learning, and be able to look back at the end of third year to show the development that has taken place over the course of those 3 years. So you're kind of hoping that once they're beginning to get confidence in finding their own actual voice in the classroom, that will transfer itself then in building up their confidence as writers. And obviously this is an ongoing process over the course of the 3 years, but I think it's important to get them into good habits from an early stage. I do find that I have quite a lot of reluctant writers, and some of the exercises that I've tried here have worked very well over the last number of years. This is a visual mind map that a former junior cycle English student of mine did in relation to a fantasy story that they had to write in second year. She was a very talented student at art and very imaginative, but very much a reluctant writer. So these students had to build a story around story cue prompts. So she got the chance to bring together her artistic and imaginative talents to help her formulate some ideas. And she would have also narrated her plan to me so I could see what her thinking was behind the prompts in the pre-writing stage. I think emphasising the importance of a consistent writing process is very important, and it's something that I try to introduce early in first year with my new group and develop then throughout the course of the 3 years of junior cycle. But it's obviously a process that is crystallised throughout the CBA2. So this writing process is the rationale behind all CBA2 pieces that my students create, and I think it provides them with a consistency of approach, and over a sustained period of time the students do respond to it. It's not an immediate response, but obviously they go through a lot of different experiences in their writing over the course of the 3 years, but certainly by the time they're getting to third year, these steps are second nature to them. The value of the digital portfolio is evident again here in this CBA2 process in terms of giving formative feedback on the work that's been submitted to me, feedback that's instant, but it's also open for me as to what method or medium I use in terms of giving that feedback back to the student. It could be written, it could be annotated, it could be an oral comment, it could be to an individual student or the whole class. So it's open enough to allow me to choose what suits me at that particular moment.